It began with a single headline that no one wanted to believe. Sam Heughan hospitalized after life-threatening accident. Within minutes, the news spread like wildfire. Fans across the world flooded social media, desperate for answers. The man known for his strength, his smile, and his endless energy was now fighting for his life in a hospital bed in Edinburgh. It had all started just 24 hours earlier, during the filming of an intense action sequence for his upcoming movie in the Scottish Highlands. The weather had turned harsh, cold winds cutting through the set, rain slicking the ground and metal rigs. Sam, ever the professional, insisted on performing the stunt himself, despite the crew's suggestion to use a double. "I'll be fine," he'd said with a grin. Those would be the last words anyone heard before everything changed. As the cameras rolled, Sam leapt from a raised platform, secured by a safety harness. But in a split second, the cable snapped. The sound, a sharp metallic snap followed by a thud, echoed through the valley. Gasps erupted. Crew members screamed for medics. When they reached him, Sam was motionless, his body twisted awkwardly on the wet ground. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but the situation was dire. He had sustained multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and severe trauma to his spine. His pulse was weak. A helicopter was called to airlift him to the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh. Even then, doctors were unsure if he would make it. News crews gathered outside the hospital before nightfall, but official statements were scarce. A representative from his team issued only one short message. "Sam is in critical condition. He is undergoing emergency surgery. Please respect his family's privacy." What followed was one of the longest nights in the history of Outlander fandom. Fans gathered outside the hospital gates, holding candles and handwritten notes. Hashtags like #Pray for Sam Heughan and #StayStrongSam began trending globally within hours. Across continents, people stayed awake through the night, waiting for updates that never seemed to come. Inside the hospital, a team of 12 doctors worked tirelessly. The operation was complex. Multiple fractures, internal repair, a spinal alignment procedure that required complete precision. The surgery stretched on for hours, then through the night, and then into the next day. 24 hours in total. Every minute felt like an eternity. Caitriona Balfe, Sam's longtime co-star and friend, reportedly flew in from London the moment she heard the news. A fan spotted her arriving at the hospital, face pale and eyes red from crying. "She looked broken," one witness said softly. "Like she was holding back every emotion just to stay strong." Inside, Caitriona stayed in the waiting room with Sam's family, his mother, siblings, and a few close friends. No one spoke much. The only sound was the ticking of the clock and the footsteps of nurses rushing past. Around the 18-hour mark, one of the doctors emerged briefly, his expression grave. "He's still fighting," he said. "But it's critical." By then, thousands of messages had flooded social media. Fans shared clips from Outlander, scenes of Sam's bravery and compassion, writing messages like, "Jamie Fraser wouldn't give up, and neither will Sam." A wave of support came from fellow actors too. Caitriona posted a simple message, "Hold on, my friend. We're all with you." Meanwhile, the doctors continued the delicate procedure. A nurse later described the atmosphere in the operating room as a mix of exhaustion and faith. The medical team rotated shifts, refusing to give up. "There were moments we thought we'd lose him," one surgeon admitted later. But there was something about his heartbeat. It just wouldn't stop. Outside, the sky began to lighten after a full day of darkness. Fans still stood by the hospital entrance, some wrapped in blankets, some whispering prayers. Then, after 24 hours, the doors to the surgical ward finally opened. The lead surgeon stepped out, his expression unreadable. Reporters crowded around, microphones raised. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then he spoke the words everyone had been waiting for, and yet feared to hear. "The surgery is complete, but we can't promise anything yet." The crowd gasped. Relief and dread mixed into one unbearable silence. Sam Heughan had survived the operation, but the fight for his life was far from over. Inside the ICU, Machines beeped steadily beside his bed. Tubes lined his body, his face pale but peaceful. Caitriona stood by the window, her hands clasped tightly together. A nurse later said she whispered something before leaving the room that night. "You've carried everyone else for so long, Sam," she said softly. "Now let us carry you." Outside, dawn was breaking over Edinburgh, a new day, fragile but full of hope. And for the millions waiting for news, one question echoed in every heart. Would Sam Heughan wake up again? The following 48 hours would test everything: science, faith, and the strength of the human spirit. Sam Heughan remained in a medically induced coma, his body wired to monitors that traced every fragile heartbeat. The doctors called it the most critical window. His family barely left his side. Caitriona Balfe stayed too, slipping quietly into the room whenever the nurses allowed it, standing still for minutes at a time, whispering words only he could hear. Outside the hospital, hundreds of fans kept vigil. Some brought flowers, others carried photos from Outlander, leaving them at the gate like offerings. Social media overflowed with messages of love and hope. "Come back to us, Sam. Our Highlander is strong." The world, for once, wasn't talking about celebrity or fame. It was talking about survival. Inside the ICU, time blurred. Day turned to night, then back again. Every small sign became monumental. The rise of his chest, a flicker on the monitor, a faint movement of his fingers. On the third day, something changed. A nurse noticed a twitch in his hand. Moments later, his eyelids fluttered. Caitriona was there, holding his hand. "Sam," she whispered, leaning closer. His lips moved. The first words he managed to say were barely audible. "Did we finish the scene?" The staff froze, then burst into tears. Caitriona laughed through her sobs. "Yes," she said, squeezing his hand. "You finished it, Sam." Word spread instantly. The miracle that fans had been praying for had happened. Sam Heughan was awake. The hospital released a brief statement confirming his recovery. "Mr. Heughan is conscious and responding well to treatment," it read. "His condition remains stable." But for the millions following his story, that one word, awake, felt like a victory. In the days that followed, Sam began the slow, grueling process of recovery. Doctors called his survival extraordinary. The damage to his spine was extensive, but with months of therapy, he would walk again. "He's strong," the lead surgeon said. "Stronger than we imagined." Caitriona stayed nearby, helping coordinate messages and visitors. She protected him from the media storm, shielding him from questions that could wait. "Right now," she told reporters, "he just needs to heal." As the weeks passed, Sam slowly regained strength. Fans sent thousands of letters, drawings, and gifts. Each morning, a nurse would read a few aloud at his bedside. Stories from people he had inspired, messages from soldiers, single parents, and fans who said Outlander had helped them survive their own dark times. "That," Sam later said, "was what kept me going." One afternoon, when he was finally strong enough to sit upright, he posted his first message on Instagram since the accident. It was a simple photo of his hand resting on the hospital blanket, sunlight spilling across it. The caption read, "I was given a second chance. Thank you for reminding me what matters most." Within minutes, the post reached millions of likes. His colleagues, friends, and fans filled the comments with support. Even celebrities outside the Outlander circle wrote messages of admiration for his courage. As weeks turned into months, Sam's recovery became a story of hope. Physical therapy was brutal, long hours of pain and determination. But every day, he made progress. By the third month, he took his first steps with assistance. By the fifth, he was walking unaided. The doctors called it a textbook miracle. When he finally appeared in public again, thinner, paler, but smiling, it felt like the world exhaled in relief. At a small press conference, his voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "I don't remember much about that day," he said, "but I remember waking up and realizing that people I've never met stayed up praying for me. That kind of love changes you." He paused, glancing at Caitriona in the front row. "I also learned that the strongest people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who stand back up, even when they're scared. His closing words that day would later be replayed in countless fan tributes. Life isn't about the spotlight. It's about the people who hold your hand when the lights go out. Months later, Sam returned quietly to the Outlander set, not to perform stunts, but to visit the crew who had become family. As he stepped onto the same ground where the accident happened, he smiled softly. "I guess we did finish the scene," he said. No music, no applause. Just the quiet strength of a man who had fought for his life and won. And for the millions who had followed every heartbeat of his recovery, that victory felt deeply personal. A reminder that even in the darkest hours, faith, friendship, and love can bring someone back from the edge.